I want to make this video to ensure that this information is out in its purest and most discernible form, while the mainstream media is disseminating false or ideological versions of the same information. We are, in this age, able to ascend into the 12th dimension, and the vehicles to do so are in our hands and the tools by which we operate our daily lives. And I would like to talk through the 12 dimensions and the vehicles for ascending through them shortly and in this moment. The first dimension of singularity consists of all matter contained as one being, and you are able to move through this dimension using your focus and attention. Placing your focus and attention into any other object or any other being or any other state of matter transports you on a first dimensional level into the body of that being, and you will be able to experience through your perspective an understanding of that being's first dimensional aspect. The second dimension is correspondence, and the travel through correspondence is activity. All parts of the universe exist in the correspondent dimension. All the parts of the universe also exist in the singularity dimension. In order to travel through the correspondent dimension, your activities physically, an agency of your body, will allow you to interact on a correspondent level with all second dimensional parts of the universe. Of course, this is 2D, this is very basic. On the third dimensional level, you will find the vehicle that you are able to travel through the third dimension with is your presence and your actuality. In order to travel through the third dimension, you need to place your actuality through a second dimensional correspondent activity into a third dimensional situation. And by connecting on a third dimensional level with all parts of the universe, you will be able to feel the presence of and the perspective entity of all objects and peoples and material aspects of the third dimensional universe. The fourth dimensional universe is linearity. The fourth dimension is linearity. You are able to travel through linearity with your consciousness. Perspective being used as a vehicle to travel through time. In order to travel through the fourth dimension, you need only exist. Your existence will carry you moment to moment through the fourth dimension, and the vehicle that you may wish to use as traveling through the fourth dimension is harmony and inner peace. If you can find a sense of inner peace and harmony with the actuality of happening over time, then you will be able to transcend all parts of the fourth dimensional universe. The fourth dimension being time, also the vehicle of your imagination will be able to transport you to any aspect of time that you can mathematically or intrinsically understand, and your body and mind are able to understand the processes of all parts of the universe. Therefore, by traveling into your mind and understanding the processes of the universe, you will be able to travel forwards and backwards through time and achieve any perspective and understand all linear perspectives. The fifth dimension of perspective itself, all parts of the universe, all physical parts of the universe exist with a perspective in the universe, which is to say that they are manifested in one place at one time. In order to travel from perspective to perspective, we have to use the universal vehicle of understanding and innate knowledge and inner consciousness. We come to understand our perspectives in the fifth dimension, but in order to travel through the fifth dimension and beyond the fifth dimension into the sixth, we have to understand other people's perspectives, and we have to take those on and understand them as though they were our perspectives if we are going to properly ascend into the sixth dimension. In order to ascend into the sixth dimension of causality, we must take into consideration the other perspectives around us and move into the causal realm by taking decision, and decision is the vehicle, the psychological and spiritual vehicle that governs the sixth dimension of causality. The causal realm is the realm of possibility and resonant possible action. And in order to travel through the fifth dimension into the sixth dimension, you must take on an objective perspective and understand how your effects and your perspective are going to affect the world around you, and then make a decision. If you are operating from the fifth dimension on a one-dimensional perspective and you're only thinking about your own perspective, then every decision that you make will probably be either ignored or disagreed with. So in order to travel into the sixth dimension of causality, you must be able to reconcile your perspective with other people's, and the vehicle to do this with is understanding. In the seventh dimension, we have effectivity. Effectivity, the effective realm, is made up of that which has manifested from the first dimension into the seventh to become fact, or to become real. This is, to what we might see, the manifested imaginary realm. Buildings, items that of human invention, anything that we have constructed that seems to have a permeable effect on the physical world. This may even construct to, legal systems, although legal systems are more sixth dimensional because they're causal. In order to travel from the sixth dimension into the seventh dimension, you have to first make a decision and then put that decision into effect, which will in turn make you a participant in the seventh dimension. So artists are participants in the seventh dimension. Also, people who destroy things, soldiers are participants in the seventh dimension, because killing is a seventh dimensional phenomenon. Because you're stopping something from living, you are taking an effect and putting it into action. And it's not a nice one, but it's 7D. In order to travel into that dimension, you have to be able to make decisions and then put them into effect, which is not the easiest thing in the world. As we know, manifestation, or doing things that you've decided to do, can be one of the most beneficial and also hardest things that the universe has given us the opportunity to do. In the eighth dimension, we have resonance. This is the realm where emotion lives. It's also the realm where light affects us. It's also the realm where sound lives. And in order to travel through the eighth dimension of resonance, in order to travel through the seventh dimension of effectivity, what we need is acceptance, and we need to accept adversity and the adversity of all of the things that are opposing us in perspective, so that we can come in to make the right decision and have it really be effective. That's how we travel through the sixth to seventh dimension. From the seventh to eighth dimension, you will find yourself traveling very quickly. When there is an effect, you may feel a resonant emotion, and emotions are alive in the resonant dimension. In the eighth dimension, when you travel from the seventh to the eighth, you may feel that there is a negative emotion or a positive emotion pushing you into the eighth. In order to comfortably travel through the eighth dimension, as I said, in the seventh, what we need is acceptance. We need to accept every emotion as part of the universe and part of the seventh dimensional effectivity syndrome. So we will move from 7 to 8 and feel things about everything. And in order to travel from 8 to 9, what we need to do with that emotion is find direction. We need to learn inner control, and learn to direct our emotions towards the effective place that we want it to go. So if you're feeling frustrated by something that's happened in the seventh dimension, maybe you crashed a car, you're frustrated, you need to direct that energy into sorting it out and going to the insurance and doing all of that kind of stuff, don't you? And directing that will make it a lot of an easier experience, not stressing out and complaining about it, not getting stuck in the eighth dimension of just feeling it, and traveling instead with acceptance, and then direction into the ninth dimension. And the ninth dimension is consciousness. Consciousness is where we take into account all of the other dimensions, our singular being, our correspondent capability, our third dimensional existence, our fourth dimensional linear state of affairs, our fifth dimensional perspective, our sixth dimensional cause, what we want to do, our seventh dimensional effect, what has happened, and our eighth dimensional resonant emotion, what we want, all being directed into a ninth dimensional body, which is the avatar body or the consciousness body, which is where we see ourselves and where we decide what we are going to be. In order to travel from the ninth dimension, from the 10th dimension, what we need is to apply imagination to that conscious entity and decide what it is that we are going to be next. So imagination being the 10th dimension, or refraction, or the fractal dimension, where everything is happening at the same time. That's your imagination, and it's the conditions for the beginning of the universe. The very beginning of the universe begins with a big, wide, empty imagination and the possibility of everything happening at the same time. So now that we're in 10D, because we can imagine ourselves, which puts you into the 10th dimension rather than the 3rd, we are now going to travel into the 11th dimension by creating outside our bodies, in our lives, the vision of what we see inside ourselves. Once we are doing that, we are traveling through the 11th dimension. Once you're making decisions based upon someone that you want to be in the future, you are one facing a one. Then, if you can take all of that and decide that you want to beneficially, so now once we have the 11th dimension, you can travel back down from the 11th dimension because you're facing yourself. And so one of those possibilities has to be negative or positive. If you're creating a negative version of yourself, then you slip down to 0, 1, whereby you consider yourself as lesser and the person in your imagination is who you wish to be. Well, hopefully we'd be traveling into the 11th dimension happy with who we are and moving on to the 12th dimension of evolution, whereby the person who we are outside begins to change based upon the blueprints of emotional resonance that we're putting into our minds from our imagination. And that's where the real magic begins. The 12th dimension is the place where all evolution is possible and present and happening at the same time as molecular growth. When you view a plant, you might be surprised that it's growing and surprised that it's making decisions and surprised that it seems to travel where it needs to go. And the reason that you're surprised is because you are viewing the 12th dimensional aspect of that plant. And every time we view the 12th dimensional aspect of a part of the universe, it will amaze us. That is the proof that you're viewing 12th dimensional aspects, the feeling of inner amazement. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy 12D.